Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm going to talk about some of the books which I want to reread and annotate, and I got this video as an idea from one of Ansel's video from a few weeks back. I'll link it in the description, so please do check out her video. She basically talks about some of the books that she has read already and loved and is going to reread and annotate right now. And while watching the video, I was also parallelly annotating one other book for my book club in January, which is Asura by Anand Neelakandan. You can see how beautiful it looks right after annotating. So I want to do this for some of my other favorite books too, which I did not know would end up as favorites for me while I was reading them. So I have a list of books here which I'll be talking to you guys about right now, which I want to reread and annotate. I'm not sure whether I'll be doing like specific videos for these books or not, but I want to sit down, read them and annotate to my pleasure. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first one is easily one of my all-time favorite books, and if I have a top 10 all-time favorite books list, this will easily be like the top 5 itself. And I remember just now that I read this book for the first time as an audiobook 4 years back. Ever since I read it, I have not reread it at all. And the book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I think is basically the most popular and best of all the books that the author has written so far. I've read only 4 of her books till date, but of all the 4 that I've read, this is the first one which I read from her, and it is also my most favorite, okay? I need not say how amazing a book this is because I have said that so many times already the past 4 to 4.5 years that I've been here on BookTube. And trust me, this is easily one of my top 5 favorite books of all time. Since I listened to it as an audiobook for the first time, I did not have the physical copy back then. And I did not know that it would end up being one of my all-time favorite books too. I actually want to buy a hardcover copy of this one, but it costs so much. That's why I have not bought it yet. But I can easily go forward and reread this from this paperback and annotate the hell out of it. I remember making my brother read this book and him coming to me during that moment where a huge thing regarding the title of the book is revealed, and he was like, what is happening here? And I'm just loving this book. I want to experience it all over again, so I'll probably reread this one as the first of all these books. The next one is a dark academia book, and of all those that I've read in this particular genre, which are very few, this is easily my most favorite, and it is also the most popular too, which is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this in 2022, okay? I think I read it in October 2022, and it has not escaped my memory ever since, okay? Because it is so beautifully written. The author has taken 8 years to write this book, and it is all worth it. I love it, okay? I love it so much that so many things in my life right now remind me of this book. Okay, especially when I see curtains just dangling in front of the sunlight, the first thing that comes to me in my mind is The Secret History. It has very few scenes in which it talks about curtains that are fluttering in sunlight because it does not have it in a sunny season or a sunny place. But when I see such stuff which are aesthetically pleasing like that, the first thing that my brain heads to is The Secret History. I have not read the other 2 books by the author which I already have on my shelf just because I have not reread this yet. I'm sure that if I start rereading this, just for the prose of the author alone, all the pages will be highlighted. So yeah, this is easily very high on this list. Next we have a book which is kind of a recent favorite because I just read it a year back, and again I did not know that this would end up being one book which I'd keep on thinking about. It is a very slow moving book. I don't care about the plot. I don't give a F about the characters. I'm just here for the vibes. And the book is Piranesi by Susanna. I even have the other book by this author, which is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is a 1000-page big book. I have it as an audiobook on Audible, but I don't have the physical copy yet. But I'm sure, okay, I'm like 1000% sure that I will read it physically while listening to the audiobook. As I've said before, I'm just going to read it for the vibes. I don't give a F about anything else that is going on inside this book. I don't care who likes it or not. I just love it. And reading this book is just like floating in a sea of silk for me. So yeah, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and just see the intricacies of this cover. Next, we don't just have a single book, but an author itself, okay? This author is easily one of my top 5 favorite authors right now. And I'm sure that I'll be reading no matter what they write, okay? And no matter how old they are, no matter what genre they write in. I'm sure if I read their books, I'll just be put in such a comfy place. And the author is Alice Oseman, okay? I'm showing this book in specific and not Radio Silence because the color of that cover for some reason messes up my camera, and it just shows the entire colors that I've chosen for a theme in a very different way. So I'm going with Solitaire, which is the first book that I wrote. I'm not sure whether I want to annotate Heartstopper or not, but I want to annotate all the full-length novels that Alice Oseman has written. I can see myself having a rainbow shelf just for Alice Oseman's books alone because all the spines are in a different color and they are all so aesthetically pleasing in just plain naked covers. So yeah, Alice Oseman is an author whose all books I will annotate except for Heartstopper because I don't know whether I'll be able to annotate properly or not for a graphic novel. So yeah, Alice Oseman books are next in the list. The next book is by an author who I want to write my life story. Okay, if someone writes my life as a story, I want this author to be the one that writes it, and it is Jhumpa Lahiri. The specific book that I'm talking about, Jhumpa Lahiri, is her first one, which is Interpreter of Maladies. That is a collection of short stories. I even remember that I was wearing the same hoodie for the review of this book, and if I have reviews for any of the books, all of them will be linked down as usual. Now, the thing about this book is that I went in so blindly, okay? I did not know anything about this author. I just saw that it is a Pulitzer Prize winning book, so I went forward and started reading it, and no idea that I have that I would fall in love with the words of this author, okay? I've read 2 other books by Jhumpa Lahiri so far, and I've annotated both of them so heavily, okay? Despite that, they have not looked up to this book for me. I know that if I start reading this book, I'll just be so happy. I'll be very happy, okay? It has like mixed emotions, it is bittersweet, it is very nostalgic, it feels very 90s. And okay, just her words, Jhumpa Lahiri words are just enough for me. I can just live in this book. I know that I'm saying a lot of just, but I cannot articulate my feelings for this book in specific very easily. You can see it's a tiny book, right? I think it's just over 200 pages. Yeah, not even 200 pages. I very badly want to annotate this one. The next one is another book that I read in 2020, and it was in October 2020, okay? So I could not get the physical copy of the book because of the pandemic back then. I listened to the audiobook and deeply fell in love with this book. Trust me, after reading this book, this author easily became one of my favorite authors of all time. It is not like I end up loving all of her books, but I do love most of her books, okay? And this book that I'm talking about is easily the most beautiful of all the books that she has written that I've read so far, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. If you've not heard about this book at all, it's basically about this woman named Addie LaRue from, I think, 17th century France. She makes a deal with the devil saying that she does not want to get married, and the price that the devil demands from her is that she will not get married until she wants to, but no one will be able to remember her starting in that moment. So it basically works in such a way that no one ever remembers Addie LaRue at all, and she also becomes immortal. It's just so beautifully written. It is very painful and very beautiful. Again, because of the audiobook, I could not annotate it, and it's been 3 years, which is a very long amount of time since I read it. It's a huge book, so it will take quite a bit of time for me to read, but trust me, I am going to annotate this for sure. The next one is a non-fiction book, which ended up being one of my favorite non-fiction books from 2023. And it is also the first book that I've read by this author, which is The Last Queen by Chitra Banerjee Diwakaruni. I've heard so many people who love this author's writing say that this is not her best book. And even with that, I ended up loving this book, okay? I enjoyed each and every page of it. I enjoyed each and every word of it. And I think I finished up reading this entire book in just like 2 or 3 days while I was working. So just imagine how good this book must have been for a non-fiction that too. It's the life story of Punjab's last queen, Jintan Kaur, and her entire life is beautifully narrated to us by Chitra Banerjee Diwakaruni in first person point of view, which is my personal favorite point of view to read from. I did not know that I will fall in love with this author's writing. It was so immaculately beautiful, and I have not read any of her other books yet because again, I want to reread this, I want to annotate it, I want to paint the edges of it that goes with the theme that I like, and after that I want to buy hardcover copies of some of her other popular books like The Palace of Illusions, The Forest of Enchantments, Independence, and some of her other backdated books as hardcovers. I don't care how much they cost, I want to read them as hardcovers because this kind of writing deserves to have hardcover books on my shelf. So yeah, The Last Queen by Chitra Banerjee Diwakaruni is next on the list. The next one is an autobiographical fiction, yet I consider it to be non-fiction only, and it is Hippie by Paulo Coelho, okay? I tried reading this book twice before I finished reading it last year, and both of the times I did not get into the vibe of the book. But last year, I just got hooked to it and finished reading it within 24 hours, okay, because it was that good. It just takes you into this trance, okay, and because of that, I was not able to slow down and annotate the book because I did not know that it was going to pull me into such a great extent based on my experiences before. The only other Paulo Coelho book that I've read is The Alchemist, but after that, I did not read any of his books, but this one is already a hardcover, so I can see myself annotating this pretty heavily. And it is also highly philosophical in its tone, right? So I'm sure that there will be so many lines to just go through, devour, and just, tattoo in my brain. So yeah, I don't have much to say about this book because it's just about the vibe here. Like I said for Piranesi, still I want to annotate this. Now, there are some books which you read, and while reading itself, you feel that I'm not that smart enough to understand this book completely. But I'm sure that once I finish reading it, that will be something which should be coming into focus, and I'll want to read it for the second time, and then enjoy it with all the smartness that I've acquired from the book, right? This book is like that for me, and it is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Okay, I'm not smart enough to explain the plot of this book in an articulate way to you guys, but basically about the single story that is happening across different times, across different generations and time periods of the world, and how all of them come together towards the climax to just make the story make sense to us readers, It was such a great experience reading this book last year for me, and while reading itself, I was able to see myself rereading this in the future, because this is not one book which you can read once and understand completely, because it has so many intellectual things going on. If you're interested in Greek or Roman mythology, I think you'll be able to enjoy this book more, because it has so much of that also going on. I don't know what genre to put this book in, because it is just an exploration of so many different genres and also done in a really, really beautiful way. So yeah, just in order to understand this book even more concretely itself, I want to reread it and annotate it. And at last, finally, we have my most favorite memoir that I've read so far. Okay, of all the memoirs that I've read, this is the one which connected the most with me, which I took away a lot from. And it has also been adapted into a movie. I watched the movie first, I think, and then I came forward and read this book. But trust me, the movie is good. This book is like on another different level. It is slow moving. You want to get into the groove of the book. You want to like the author, and I'm sure that you will like the author. The book is Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I actually listened to the audiobook of this one and parallelly read the physical copy. I read the paperback of this one, which I had bought already, and then I got my chance to grab a hardcover copy of this because of a collaboration, and I want to reread the story from this hardcover copy. Since I've annotated it already, I know that I will enjoy this a lot more on a reread and annotating again. And the best part about this book, if you ask me, is the audiobook which is narrated by the author herself. It is basically like me and the author just sitting together and she telling her story in her own voice and me listening to it. I don't think there can be any better experience than that for a reader. So I want to experience that and also feel the joy of re-annotating this book. So yes guys, those are all the books which I want to reread and annotate. If you want to see specific videos for any of these books after I finish reading them, as review videos or vlogs, please do let me know down in the comments so that I can try and make videos surrounding those concepts. And if you've read any of these books, please do let me know down in the comments what you think about them too. And if you enjoyed watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.